I wanted to start our conversation with something that was said in the Oval Office this morning. Trump and Pete Hegseth gather in the Oval, and they have a lot to say on a variety of topics. Among them, we're still on the Canada thing. Trump once again saying Canada would make a great 51st American state. From the Oval Office this morning, Trump said the United States sends a lot of aid to Canada and their trade negotiators are tough. He said Canada would make a beautiful state and a great landmass addition to the United States. He called the boundary between the countries an artificial line. Is it? I mean, it's so ridiculous. It's almost like a joke, but he's not joking, Jim Avila.
Yeah, I think it's a distraction. Who knows with Trump, but it's one of those things where he really ought to focus on all the damage he's doing in the United States before he works on killing Canada. But it's Canada has no interest in becoming part of the United States.
No.
And if he wants to take it over physically or by military, that's a waste of men and women and troops and all kind. It's just silly, It makes me, I kind of dismiss it without even much thought, to tell you the truth, because it's not going to happen. Canada is not going to want to become part of this country. They were perfectly happy being an ally, and Trump's trying to ruin that as well.
What's scary to me, though, Jim, and let's welcome Michael Shure to the conversation as well. Hi, Michael Shure. Welcome to
How are you?
I got my Friday guys.
Jim outside with his
Montreal.
Is that a Montreal Canadiens cap? I can't see through the glare, but
Chicago Cubs.
Oh, it's a Chicago Cubs. All right. Yeah. Well, I got hopeful.
As I was saying, Jim, what scares me though is that you have Trump cozying up to Vladimir Putin, who is invading and taking land from another country. And so maybe that indicates that this is more true than just a distraction, and that Trump is thinking along the Putin lines where, hey, I'd like to have the country next to me too.
Well, I may be thinking that, but number one, I don't think the population of the United States, and maybe I'll be wrong again about the people here in this country, but the people here in this country aren't going to stand for some kind of incursion into Canada. That's a bridge too far, I think. And he, I just think he tries to distract us, the people in this country, with these ridiculous things that, like that in Greenland. Greenland is maybe a little bit better, a little bit more of a chance, but they're trying to distract us from what the real problems are, and the fact that he's not addressing the real problems, the fact that he hasn't addressed the economy, and the economy is getting worse, and the fact that he's deporting innocent people into a foreign country. Those are real issues. The Canadian issue is not something that I think is real, even though he does idolize, as you say, Putin. Putin has a system over there that doesn't allow any dissent. And while Trump would love that, he doesn't have that yet. And Americans would revolt if we actually attacked Canada.
Michael Shure?
There's a consistency to, Donald Trump, when it comes to issues that affect the American people, he only cares about the distracting ones. He only cares about, the open borders, the things that rile people up. And there's another part of his personality. I mean, he was a guy from Queens who wanted to be in Manhattan. So in essence, he tried to conquer Manhattan by putting his name on skyscrapers all over town. He was always treated as an outsider. Today in the international community, when it comes to diplomacy, still treated as an outsider. You saw him barge. I mean, these are little things, and a photo op doesn't define a man or a president or a presidency. But when I think it was either a G7 or an E20, where he just sort of pushed his way in front. This is what he wants. And in the modern time, there are very few people. I mean, I think in some, sub-Saharan African countries, where land conquering is still in vogue, right? And then there's Vladimir Putin doing it. But in the model of authoritarianism that he has ascribed himself to, that's part of it, right? So that's part of the Second World War, going in and conquering other countries and building, going in as the Soviet Union, seeing those things happen. And that's what Donald Trump's doing. But there's very little land available. So there's a little bit to the north. There's a ton of it. There's Greenland. There's the Panama Canal. And I'm forgetting one that he said would be a great. Oh, Gaza. I mean, Gaza is a perfect example of
Sure.
that. So,
the Mediterranean of the Middle East, Michael Shure.
Right. And even putting the Gulf of America, conquering the Gulf of Mexico. So in his persona, in his personality, which we don't, we do talk about, but we don't apply it to every move that he does. There's an understory here, a backstory. And that backstory is that he just wants to be bigger. He wants to be remembered. He wants to be, an assassin more than he wants to be president. He wants to be remembered in that way, in many ways. So I just think that it's consistent more than it's shocking. And no, we're not going to invade, nor will we conquer Canada.
You just mentioned something, which is that Trump doesn't have the ability right now to squash all dissent like Vladimir Putin does, which one of you just said that. And one of the things that pops out to me is his call to impeach justices that go against him in an effort trying to squash any dissent. There are multiple ways in which he's trying to do this, or which the Republicans are coming up with plans to get judges to stop these rulings. One of them, a new bill from Darrell Issa in California, would limit federal judges' ability to issue far-reaching injunctions. Apparently, that bill headed to the floor in early April, and Trump is backing it. It needs 60 votes to pass, and that means some Democrats would have to cross over. There are also some Republicans talking about cutting off federal funding for the federal district court in Washington and other lower courts as well, and that could come up in the 2026 spending fight. Other ways that they're trying to squash dissent, pushing forward with the impeachment of these judges. There are already resolutions to impeach James Boasberg, who went against Trump on the Venezuelan flight ruling. So is that what we're going to see next, to kind of hobble the courts and justices' abilities to make any kinds of decisions that would go against the president, Michael?
Yeah, I think that's the next chapter, right? Is what happens with the judiciary. And Darrell Issa is Darrell Issa fits the Trump model to a certain degree. He's the wealthiest member of the House, or if he's not the wealthiest still, I think, maybe Kevin Horn is, if he's Kevin Hearn, if he's still in the House. I believe he is. Yeah, Oklahoma's Kevin Hearn. But what Darrell Issa did is he went to another district when he lost when he was redistricted out. He went to another district, conquered that district in a way. There's a consistency, the type of the people that are doing this. I think, though, when it comes to the judiciary, this is going to be the constitutional test. It will be a political test as well, meaning that if they defy the judiciary in our three branches of government, then they're going to then you're going to have to see Republicans, people who have been steadfast in supporting the Constitution, who love this Supreme Court and its makeup. They've tried to build this judiciary in their favor. If this judiciary goes against Donald Trump for overreach, they're going to be hard pressed to do what is right, and they've failed when given that opportunity on other scores. But if it's a constitutional crisis, which I think this flirts with, then you're going to have to see some of them step up and go against that wave of defying the judiciary, impeaching judges. That's something that is, talked about and done, but it's not, Judge Boasberg, right, has given Donald Trump great rulings in the past, rulings that have favored him. Just because you disagree with a ruling does not make that ruling wrong, and we rely on that. So there's something fundamental, and I don't have faith that all these Republicans are going to wake up and say, and conservatives and say, oh, no, this is a bridge too far. They haven't done it, and there have been many bridges with many reaches since we've known who Donald Trump was. And I don't have great confidence, but I think that's something that we need to rely on. And I think that's where the rhetoric has to go toward pushing these people. And it has to come from Republicans who are elected, who are, brave enough to do that. Counting on bravery is always a fatal mistake.
I think we have Jim Avila back now, so if we can bring him back into the shot. I don't know if he had anything to say about this effort to impeach justices and squash dissent against the Trump administration and these executive orders from the judicial branch.
Well, it's an abuse of power. It's what I said last week about what the major issue is with Donald Trump that may have some resonance among Democrats and among the voting public in general, is his attempt to go beyond what the powers of the presidency are defined as in the Constitution. He's trying to do that with the judiciary. He's also trying to do that with the media and with the legal system. He's now intimidated big law firms in Washington, D.C. to make these settlements, and also major media companies to make these settlements with him, which is a shame and which is an embarrassment, and they ought to be ashamed for doing that. So, this is his effort to become a king. It's real. That part is real. Taking over Canada is not real. He wants to have nobody object to him, nobody resist, and he's trying his best to do that against the media, the judiciary, the legal system in general. He's already done that at the Department of Justice, which used to be semi-independent of the president, and there was very little conversation between the president and the attorney general about these things. Biden kept the arm's length from his people at the Justice Department, and Trump has done the exact opposite. This is the issue, I believe, that resonates with the public. If he continues to try to be a king, he's going to be resisted.
You mentioned the law firms that Trump is going after, and I saw this story last night. Trump is now rescinding an executive order after a law firm that he was attacking has agreed to provide him $40 million in free services, to the government, right?
Yeah.
It's this law firm, the attorneys at Paul Weiss, they're giving $40 million in free legal services to support the Trump administration goals. And so Trump rescinds this executive order targeting this, what he called a Democratic-leaning law firm, because they're giving him freebies. That should be illegal. How does that work?
It should be. I mean, and Bradley Karp is the chairman of Paul Weiss Rifkin, and he's one of the big bundlers, the big bundlers in the Democratic Party. He's been there for Hillary Clinton, for Joe Biden, for Cory Booker, people in the tri-state area, Chuck Schumer, I think, and for him to just about face to cave to the Trump demands tells you the power and the reach that is happening right now, and how if even somebody who is clearly a Democrat, who is overtly a Democrat, is going down to the White House to make a deal with the president, and to provide, and now some of the services he's providing are for charities, but nonetheless it's still making a deal with the devil as far as somebody like Brad Karp is concerned, and that's going to be happening in lots of different circles. And this is the breakdown. This is the breakdown of resistance to the president, which has to scare people, and it's why people, Democrats in particular, are so dissatisfied with Democrats in Congress. Democrats in Congress are less popular with Democrats now than they have been at any time that I can remember. And so that is informed by the fact that they are not getting resistance from the places or successful resistance from the places that they rely on. And that would be Congress. That would be, the judiciary in some circles. That would even be some of the media, which has been marginalized by this administration. So the frustration that rank and file Democrats are feeling right now. Now, I'm pretty calm about political emergencies. I don't like to overreact to them. I think the Democrats are very close to winning in lots of places as well. That they winning back some of the white union men who left them would have changed this election. It's not easy to do, but it's certainly a very clear task that they can go after. And I'm not afraid about minority voters sticking with the Republican Party. I'm much more afraid of people who left the Democratic Party who are now going along with Republicans and didn't vote for Democrats. And if you have unpopular Democrats, that's a really important poll. So Democrats have to work on their base right now, which is not a place they thought they'd have to be, but it's very difficult to fight back against this behemoth.
But I think before we leave the discussion about the legal issues that have to do with these big law firms, remember what he was doing. When you said this should be illegal, Kim, what should be illegal is what Trump was threatening to do, which was not even to allow them. Sorry about the airplane.
That's okay. You can't help it. Boy, they're coming right over you.
During Jim's hiatus, we never had these problems. Jim was out for a while, and everything was smooth. No planes, no drops, no going to one pretty background instead of another pretty background. But yeah, as you were.
Well, I think the big issue with them is what he was doing to threaten them. He was not allowing. He put an order out that they would not be allowed to go in federal buildings. They would not be able to go to courts, federal courts. So, that's a pretty strong and illegal way of doing things, and would mean out of business for these lawyers who practice in these places. So, that's the part that should be illegal. And while you have sympathy for these law firms, I really do feel it's an embarrassment and shameful that they have capitulated to Trump. As far as the Democrats are concerned, which Michael was just beginning to talk about, I do too think it's way too early to panic. I think that there is always, after a big loss, and even though it wasn't a huge loss, it wasn't a huge mandate, and it was not a slap in the face to all Democrats, it was a learning. We should learn from that. And what should be learned from that is what they are now kind of regrouping. We're seeing AOC and Bernie Sanders out in the campaign trail with these huge rallies against oligarchy and against exactly what I've been talking about, which is the real issue, that who's controlling this country now, and that's Donald Trump, who wants to be a king, and his buddies. Though that's happening. The middle is trying to say to the rest of the Democrats, the moderates are saying, well, we went too far progressive, and that's going to work itself out over the next few months before we get to the midterms. I don't think it's time to panic. There has to be some evaluation there. I think guys like Chris Murphy should come forward. The senator from Connecticut, isn't that right, Michael? Connecticut.
Yeah, Connecticut.
Is that those folks, those moderates? I saw him on the Daily Show, and with Jon Stewart, and he was just remarkable. Well, why isn't he head of the Democratic Senate instead of Chuck Schumer? Those things have to work itself out. I think he may emerge as the leader. He's one of the ones who could emerge as a leader. So
I would add Brian Schatz of Hawaii, who is more focused on it than Senator Murphy. From what my sources told me on the Senate side, is that Schatz is really positioning himself for that.
Well, anybody who can replace Schumer is on my list of people who should replace Schumer.
Let's talk
Yeah.
about that, because Schumer, of course, decided that he was going to vote against a government shutdown. And some would say it was kind of capitulating to Trump, giving Trump whatever he wanted, and not digging his heels in and being part of a resistance. Do you think that Schumer should have resisted, or do you think a government shutdown would play right into Trump's hands? They don't want to spend money anyway. I don't
Yeah.
know
Well,
what's right here. We're worried about federal workers. That would make it worse for federal workers who would then, go without pay and whatever else at the same time that they're worried about losing their jobs. What's the right move for Schumer to make in this case?
it's a tough call. He clearly made the wrong one, though, because the way that the party sees him now, certainly the right move would not have been to say that you were going to filibuster against it and then to turn and change your mind so quickly. I think consistency for Schumer would have been a lot better, because it would have allowed other Democratic senators to speak in favor of or against what the leader was doing. So I think in the political calculations that were made, it was very sloppy. And I think that's the less talked about, the undercard of what we're talking about with Chuck Schumer now is that abrupt change. I should point out too that Brian Schatz voted with Schumer, which a lot of people saw as a signal that he wants to be the leader. So when you are the leader, you have to straddle a different fence very often than you do when you're just a rank and file senator. But again, I'm not excusing Schumer. I think it was a bad move. But members of Congress who I've spoken to, members of the House who voted to shut down the government, say they understand why he's doing what he's doing, because shutting it down in some of their districts, they've said to me, would be terrible for their federal workers, for their national park workers, for VA, all the things that we always know every time this sort of thing happens. But I think that it's not just about that vote. And what Jim was saying is true. They need a change anyway. You don't need a New Yorker, an aging New Yorker, peering over his reading glasses at a lectern to be your leader now. You need some energy, and you need different energy. But again, I also agree with Jim, and that a lot of people are panicked, and I am, I get that. But in politics, things happen slowly. And so if it were to happen quick, and let's say tomorrow Schumer steps down and Brian Schatz or Chuck Schumer or Sheldon Whitehouse is the leader of the Senate minority, they will have a honeymoon, and then it will be the timing of politics ebbs and flows consistently all the time, that they will be unpopular and there will be problems and they will seem weak. So panicking it's good to be talking about it, but I don't think that on that side of things, and Jim may disagree, but I don't think panicking is the right motivation at the moment. And then when we get to a judicial crisis, then I will say it's time.
Mm-hmm.
I said that first. What are you talking about? Yes.
Well, you did. No, but I'm just saying that on the side of the leadership in the Senate. Yeah, but I didn't know if you were here, if you dropped out. You'd said that. So.
I think that the issue with Schumer, look, I think he did the right thing in backing and not allowing the government to shut down. I don't think we should ever shut down the government. It hurts too many Americans, too many people outside of Washington, D.C. That I think is the right decision. Like Michael, I believe that he is past his time. His expiration date is over. He is too old school, not a dynamic leader. And what the Democrats need is a dynamic leader right now, and it's not Chuck Schumer. I think Chris Murphy's much better than the guy from Hawaii, in that he has a more national profile. Some people actually, most people don't know any of these people, to tell you the truth.
Right.
But Murphy is up on the shows more often,
Yep.
and is. Go ahead, Michael. Sorry.
Sorry to interrupt, Jim, but Murphy also has different aspirations, and he may have presidential aspirations. And the majority leader or minority leader spot is never a stepping off point, a jumping off point for that. But we don't know that either.
Yeah.
We had this speech from the Oval Office today in which something was said that I find incredibly outrageous. Trump said the January 6th rioters were nothing like these terrorist Tesla vandals. He said, you didn't have anything like that on January 6th. Of course, he's talking about people damaging Teslas, There were shots fired in a Tesla dealership, which injured no one. Not that it's good, but no one was hurt. That's the fact of the matter. There have been
Yeah,
charging stations
firebombing's
set
not a good
ablaze.
idea.
No, firebombing is never a good idea, but different
But, you know,
than January 6th,
comparing
where
it
people
to,
actually did die,
right.
right? So here's what he had to say. You didn't have that January 6th. I can tell you, you didn't have anything like that. He said a police officer was among those who he didn't say that. I will say a police officer was among those who died either during the riot or directly afterward. And then Trump issues this mass pardon for all the J6ers. But this is what he said. He says that people who attack Teslas should be sent to prison in El Salvador, where they recently took these 250 migrants. He said, I view these people as terrorists, just like the others. When I looked at these showrooms burning, those cars, not one or two, like 7, 8, 10 burning, exploding all over the place. These, he says, are terrorists. Michael,
Well,
sure, or Jim Avila, go ahead.
Give it to Jim.
Yeah.
Well, you know, he's been trying to minimize January 6th since he left office. You can't minimize because it's on tape. It's on. You can watch it. You can watch it, and you can see the damage that was done to the Capitol, the attacks on the policemen, the fact that they had a policeman trapped between a door where he was choking. You know, these are supposedly the law and order people. You know, he's totally wrong. Now, is it wrong to firebomb a Tesla dealership? Yeah. All you got to do is not buy one. Okay, that's all you got to do. There's no reason to attack with violence, any kind of with guns or fire bombs. That's just wrong. And they should be arrested. They shouldn't be sent to El Salvador, but they should be arrested and prosecuted for vandalism. And just like and not pardoned. Unfortunately, like the idiots at the Capitol are all pardoned. That shouldn't happen, and it shouldn't happen with these guys.
Yeah, I think a little resistance, a little nonviolent resistance is okay in the face of what people are feeling right now, and this kind of takeover of the government. But I think that you have to be consistent about it. I think back to what Republicans were saying in the wake of the riots after the George Floyd murder. Was they were saying that in fact what the people responding to it were doing was worse than what happened to Floyd. Well, they wouldn't be out burning down a part of Minneapolis were it not for what the police had done, were it not for the cumulative effects of what the police had done. Well, again, you cannot minimize the reaction, but you cannot also lose sight of what happened before. And that's the same thing with January 6th. I mean, it was a real affront to our whole government. And then it was an affront to what seemed like justice to have them all pardoned. So to equate, doing what they did to Teslas, and I'm not defending it. They broke the law, and they should get prosecuted for what they did. But it's incomparable.
No, completely incomparable. I'm running out of time with you guys. I will say, as you talk about dissent, AOC says the Democrats need to elect brawlers who fight to defeat the GOP. Do we have a brawler? Is that what we need? People who are going to get down and dirty. I was reading at a town hall event by a Democratic congressman that a member of the audience stood up and said, "You guys are being too polite. You need to not be polite. This is dirty politics, and you need to play it as such." And then today, AOC with "we need to elect brawlers who fight" comment. Do we need to get people in office who are willing to get their hands dirty? Is that American politics? Because maybe that happened before, but it was kind of done below behind closed doors. And now the dirty is out in the open.
Well, I think tough leaders, brawl without it having the feel of it being brawling, right? I think when you look at the leadership on both sides of the aisle in both houses, whether it be John Thune or Hakeem Jeffries, or Chuck Schumer, or in the House, Mike Johnson, you see these sort of they're fairly genteel people who get those positions, and those are the public faces. But they can also be sneaky and vicious in the cases of Pelosi and McConnell. So that could be construed as brawling. I do think that what Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez is saying is that we need to have sort of a top-down resistance to what is going on, and that takes brawling rhetoric, that takes consistency, that takes not letting everything go by us, and that also means, in her parlance, I think challenging some of the, as she did when she ran for office the first time, challenging some of these people who have been in office for too long. But you also don't want to become a sideshow, and I think that Democrats were labeled that by. I think it's a question of issues that they've been saddled with much more so than it is their fight and whether or not they're polite. That's my personal take.
So we already kind of mentioned the fight against judges, but I just saw this story pop up and I wanted to mention it in case people haven't seen this headline yet. We saw Elon Musk do this in the presidential election, offering money for people to get on board with the way he wanted them to vote. Now his America PAC is offering $100 to each eligible Wisconsin voter who signs a petition against activist judges. I don't think is it legal to pay people to sign a petition? Can you do that?
He did it during the presidential election.
He sure did. Mm-hmm.
So, and there was no legality involved. So I don't think it's illegal. I think that most of the people who will sign up are either doing it for the money or doing it because they're MAGA already. I don't think it has much effect, to tell you the truth. The biggest problem that Elon Musk has is access. The fact that he was able to go to the Pentagon this morning, and although Trump says he didn't look at the Chinese war plans, that he was able to go there and look through their computers, and his people are looking through the computers. That's the, and what they're doing at the Social Security Department is those are the things that are scary. I don't care about his who he backs in the election, but what he's doing. Hopefully, I haven't lost you. What he's doing in the Social Security with by going in and getting people's private information. He has your credit report now. That's crazy.
Yeah, there are a lot of people that would argue that Donald Trump seeing the Chinese war plans is more dangerous than Musk.
They'll just end up in Trump's bathroom, so that's how that works. Come on.
No, the Democrats need to just call out the lies and do things to appeal. I mean, it's a strategy. They need to do things to appeal to the voters they lost in 2024. And in that case, it's somewhat simple. I mean, it's a huge mountain to climb, but it's a very clear task.
Vilma writes,
Trump is doing all he can to alienate the people who put him over the top. When these these Medicaid cuts start, those Medicaid, the people on Medicaid are old white people, and they're going to, be hurt by this. The people who, that are on Social Security are going to be hurt by this. Are many of them Trump voters? He's already alienating the unions, as Michael mentioned before, and as far as African American and Hispanics, he's doing his best to alienate those as well. So, and so I think he is hurting himself, and those people, if the Democrats play it right, and they're reorganizing now, and they shouldn't panic, they play it right, they're going to get them back.
Yeah. Michael Shure, Jim Avila, you guys are awesome. I've kept you way too long, but I love this conversation with you every Friday. I'm glad to have
48 seconds of sports today.
Oh, well, do you want to do it? Because
I could do 96 seconds next week with Albert.
We can make time. Albert is here. Let's do it. It is 48 seconds of sports.
Albert, Obi scored again. He's 7 goals shy of the record. This is Alexander Ovechkin breaking Wayne Gretzky's goal record. Gretzky
Putin lover. Putin lover.
What's that? Putin lover.
He's a Putin lover.
No, he's someone who's afraid to say that he does it. He's a Putin hater, is what it is. And I understand his sentiments there. But But so one of the cool things about this is that Wayne Gretzky is going to go around to all these Capitals games and follow the team for when he breaks the record. So I thought, all right, well, when he has 3 goals left, he'll go. No, it's at 5 goals. Gretzky's going to have to go around the country, like to Columbus and wherever, and sit through Capitals games where Ovechkin may not score until he scores. What do you think?
Well, luckily he has been scoring a lot, and the team is really good. So regardless of wherever he's going, might be Columbus, Ohio. Columbus is pretty good this year too. So hopefully Wayne is getting good games to watch. And I know he's been scoring a bunch of empty net goals. I'm just hoping it's not an empty net goal to break the record.
You hope he's bored to Jim Avila hopes he's bored to death.
Yeah, because he's a Trump lover too. He's got a Trump lover watching a Putin lover.
He's the Trump lover, and he's getting a lot of flack from that in Canada right now. Quickly to bring it back local, and we only have seconds left. The 49ers, top to bottom, Albert, just cleaning house. What's your quick take on that?
It's good. We needed it. Everyone that we lost, we couldn't have afforded anyways. They got really great contracts. We needed a fresh start. Everyone also that we lost are always injured. So I think we need a fresh start. It sucks seeing the band go when you're so close so many times, but I think it's the medicine you need.
Yeah, I agree. It's tough though. It is tough, and there are a couple that I would have liked to have seen stay on the offensive line, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. And I think that's 48 seconds of sports.
There you go. 48 seconds of sports it is. Jim Avila, Michael Shure, thank you for being here. Have a really great weekend, and we'll see you next Friday.
Okay.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.